Hey there, island dreamers, locals, and anyone craving a slice of paradise. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to the Fun and Key West podcast, where the vibe is always laid back, the stories are salty, and the drinks, well, they're definitely frozen. I'm your host, Michelle O'Connor, your unofficial tour guide to the Conquered Public. Whether you're planning your first trip, your fifth trip, or you're just daydreaming about trading the cubicle for the ocean breeze, you are in the right place. Here's the deal. This podcast is your insider's guide to all things Key West. We're talking where to eat, hello, conch fritters and key lime pie, where to drink, spoiler alert, there will be rum, where to stay, and all the quirky, wonderful things that make Key West the one-of-a-kind paradise we all love. Plus, we'll keep you up to date on the latest happenings, festivals, events, maybe even the occasional Hemingway lookalike sighting. And just to keep things spicy, we'll be bringing on some amazing guests now and then, locals, business owners, and people who know the island like the back of their sandy hand. So grab your flip-flops, pour yourself a cold one, and let's escape to the island state of mind together, whether you're tuning in from your hammock or your commute, while wishing it was a hammock. We've got all the Key West goodness coming your way. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun in Key West. Let's dive in. Hey there, history buffs and curious minds. I'm Michelle with Fun in Key West, and today's story is hotter than a Key West summer and just as dramatic. We're talking about the fire of 1886, a blaze that didn't just shape the island's architecture, but also got people whispering about espionage, sabotage, and fire spies. Oh yeah, this one's got conspiracy theories written all over it. We'll dig into who might have struck the match, why this wasn't your run-of-the-mill accident, and how the aftermath shaped Key West you know and love today. Grab your coffee and join me for some riveting tales, fiery theories. Trust me, this one is a story you will want to hear. Happy Historic Marker Monday, everybody. This is Michelle with Fun in Key West, and I'm so glad that you are tuning in. Every Monday, we go through the historic markers that you find in Key West. And today we're talking about the fire of 1886. There's some conspiracy theories attached to this, and we'll get into that. But if you're watching live, let me know you're here. Do a shout out and let me know what you learned, maybe the last time you were in Key West. If you are listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, I will have a link to learn more about the fire of 1886 in the show notes and down in the description section of YouTube. But let's dive in. So when we are looking at how Key West is set up and the history and the structure of Key West of what we see today, a lot of it has been impacted by not only the fire of 1886, but also hurricanes and also the rebuilding of the outer section to create more land for the Navy. So take into account that in 1886, Key West probably didn't look like it does today. But the fire of 1886, this involves fire, spies, and maybe even a little bit of sabotage. I know it sounds like it's a novel or a spy movie, but this all actually happened. So let me set the scene. It's April 1st, 1886. Now, there's a question mark on that because some people think it was a little earlier, a little later, but let's just say April 1st, 1886. It's about 2 a.m. in the morning, and a fire ignites in a small coffee shop right next to the San Carlos Institute. Within hours, it ravages downtown Key West. 18 major cigar factories are taken out. Over 600 homes and warehouses are lost in the fire. And in 1886 dollars, over $2 million in damages were done. And that's in 1886 dollars. So let's look at the context of this, because the thought process was this was no accident. This was actually intentional. Let's give you some context of where Key West was at during that time. And David is saying, good morning from Clearwater, Florida. Have a great week. Hey, David, you too. So at this point in time, Key West wasn't just an island paradise, it was a hotbed for the Cuban revolutionary support. And this is where a lot of the people came to support and give their support, their financial support, their moral support to the Cuban Revolution. So Cuban exiles and the cigar workers that were in Key West at the time sent money and supplies and morale back to Cuba. So the kicker was here, Spain had to sell Cuban tobacco to Key West cigar factories. So if you think about it, that money that Spain was spending funded both sides of the revolution. My morning coffee went down the wrong tube there. Anyway, so Key West becomes basically the revolution's ATM. And so if you think about it, there's a lot of reasons why this conspiracy theory is in existence. There are many suspicious details. So the first detail that we look at in the suspicious factor is that the fire was intentionally extinguished on Whitehead Street, but mysteriously reignited upwind on Duval Street, targeting more cigar factories. And Arlene's saying, good morning. Good morning, Arlene. Suspicious factor number 2. A Spanish flotilla was waiting offshore the next morning to ferry unemployed Cuban cigar workers back to Cuba. Coincidence? We don't know. Mary Elizabeth, good morning. How are you? And finally, our suspicious factor number 3. A Havana newspaper ran an article the day before the fire claiming Key West had burned down. Wait, what? Yeah, the day before. And Key West's only steam fire engine just happened to be in New York that day for repairs. So there's a lot of suspicious factors surrounding this, and historians have gone on and back and forth about this. Also, the symbolism of the fire, it started next door to the San Carlos Institute, which was the cultural and political heart of Cuban society at the time in Key West. Many believe that this was an intentional fire set as a direct attack on the Cuban identity, not just the property, but Cuban identity. So what's the legacy of the fire? The city rebuilt, obviously, but the scars have always lasted. The cigar industry really never did go back to the full strength that it had prior to the fire. There were other factors that played into it, but this was the last thing that was the death nail to the cigar industry in Key West. We know that a lot of it went north to Tampa, into David's Point. I mean, that's around your area there. You can see all of the cigar factories are there. It was easier to get in and out of at that point in time. But the fire just really put an end to the cigar industry there in Key West. The fire marked a turning point in the Cuban struggle and Key West's role in it. And some historians are still on the hunt for hard evidence to prove that this was Spanish espionage. So as you're walking down Duval, there is the historic marker there next to the San Carlos Institute, and it talks about the 1886 fire. Have you ever thought about it? You know, what's interesting is a lot of the history that we learn in school comes back, and you get to see it in the impact of it, and not see it basically in real life, but you get to see the impact of what was happening in Key West. You had the Spanish War, you had the Civil War, but all these markers are a testament to either that building or a person or an event. And so the 1886 fire plaque is located next to the San Carlos Institute today. But you can imagine, you're there in 1886, you don't have the fire department that you have today, and you're seeing everything go up in smoke and flames. So there's a lot of interesting things that occurred. A lot of it, the impact of the fire, made sure that all of the new builds had metal roofs that would help from the flames hopping from structure to structure. And that started that. Can you imagine, though, just being there? And would you have rebuilt if you were a Cuban immigrant? Would you have rebuilt? Would you have left? That's an interesting question, don't you think? And I think that's interesting to do all of that. So I encourage you, as you are strolling around Key West, and if cigars are your thing, there are many cigar factories, not cigar factories, but cigar places that you can still check out. Rodriguez over on Fitzpatrick, they still hand roll them. You can watch them do that. And they have a great selection of cigars. So if you're just beginning your journey into cigars, they have some way of showing you the path. There's multiple places along Duval that you can also check out, but also go check out some of the older cigar factories. And we talk about them over on, I'm going to send you guys over there to FunInKeyWest.com. We have the historic marker walking tour over there. It's free, it's self-guided, but if there's something that you're interested in, be sure to check that out. I'm in the process of creating a map with pins on it so that you can pull that up and see where you are in connection to those pins. But there are a ton of them throughout town, and they're just interesting and full of information about not only Key West, but the founding people, as well as historical events that occurred and impacted Key West. Thank you so much for stopping in on another episode of Historic Marker Monday. We love to talk about the history of Key West, the architecture, the history, all of that. Key West, as you guys keep telling me, is more than eating and drinking, and I absolutely agree. The architecture and the history is what really made me fall in love with Key West. Everything else helps, I guess. So when you're over at FunInKeyWest.com, check out what things to do, and there's a historic marker tour over there. There's also our book club. So if you love all things Key West, be sure to sign up for our book club. We have some exciting things. Lucy Burdett will be coming on at the end of August of 25 to talk about her Key West food critic books. If you want to learn more about that and be part of that conversation, sign up for our book club. It's free. You can get the sign up over there on FunInKeyWest.com. I will also put all the links down in the show notes. In the meantime, you guys have a great Monday. Thanks for stopping in. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for sticking with me as we sifted through the fiery mystery of 1886. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how much drama Key West has packed into its history? Fire spies, sabotage, and a Havana newspaper playing psychic. It's like the plot twist of a Netflix series we didn't know we needed. So here's a recap. April 1st, 1886, or so we think, a fire starts near the San Carlos Institute and takes down cigar factories, hundreds of buildings. Yikes. Suspicious? Yeah, well, the fire mysteriously reignites. A Spanish flotilla just happens to be waiting nearby, and there's a way too early Havana news article. Coincidence? I think not. The aftermath reshaped Key West's landscape and the cigar industry as we know it, while still leaving us with questions and answers. Well, actually, more questions than we have answers for. If today's stories lit a spark for your historical intrigue, then grab a hat and some sunscreen and explore Key West's historic markers. Don't miss the one near the San Carlos Institute that commemorates this fiery turning point. Now, for my fellow bookworms, why not keep the magic and mystery alive? Head over to Fun in Key West and sign up for our book club. There we explore books that always have a Key West connection. But don't forget, like this episode if you love uncovering Key West's past. Share it with your history-loving besties or anyone who's overdue for a Key West trip. And let me know if you have visited the San Carlos Institute or have your own wild Key West conspiracy theory. I want to hear it. Thanks again for tuning into Historic Marker Monday. Keep exploring, keep the questions coming, and as always, keep it Key Westy.